This is NJ, your host on this channel. In this video, we will have our discussion on the outer planet Uranus. So friends, after the very good response which I received on lastly uploaded video on Neptune, so we will follow the same pattern. Initially and first we will try to understand the basic attributes and signification contribution of Uranus in astrology, and then in the last section we will try to understand the placement of Uranus in different houses of your astrological chart. So now friends, if you are not very much inclined towards including these outer planets in your general astrological assessments, so first I will try to make you guys understand the overlap or correlation of Uranus with the existing pieces of knowledge which you have, like pieces of Vedic astrology which you generally follow. So out of all the 12 zodiac signs, if I were to pick any one zodiac sign which very closely manifest the qualities of Uranus, is the zodiac sign of Aquarius. So all the Aquarian qualities of being very scientific driven, being very innovative, being very scientific in your thought process, out of the box thinking, so all these are the qualities which you can fairly and closely correlate with the Uranus planet. Second thing is that out of all the planets, so friends, some people associate Uranus with the Rahu. Now one thing which I want to make it very clear over here is that Rahu is a imaginary point, like basis the intersection of moon on the ecliptic and the involvement of the earth's rotation around the sun. But over and above that friends, like Rahu imparts its major influence on our psychology. But when we talk about that, if in someone's chart you will find that moon is in a very dignified state, it is being well placed in a very good house like trine house, angular house, being conjunct with Jupiter. So then in those kind of scenarios, Rahu kind of lose its impact of affecting someone on a very deeper psychological way. But when we talk about from the contribution of Uranus, so Uranus in a way has got similar revolutionary qualities akin to Rahu, but just because it is a physical planet, so it actually holds this potential to manifest some very strong concrete results in your life. If you will find Uranus to be placed in your ascendant, being close to your ascendant degrees, or being conjunct with your moon, so your psychology or your thought process definitely have the say or influence of the Uranus qualities. Or let's say for example, if Uranus is closely conjunct with your 10th house lord being placed in the 10th house, so then in those kind of scenarios you can definitely experience or feel the energies of Uranus in that specific area of your life. Now friends, as I was telling you about that which planet closely correlate or manifest the qualities of Uranus, so you can also see Uranus as the higher octave of the Mercury energies. So Mercury, which in a way represents your knowledge seeking qualities, Mercury which represents and tells about your analytical approach towards the life, all sort of academic knowledge, and the knowledge of commerce and trade is something which we closely associate with Mercury. But there is a void space which Mercury cannot fulfill. For that you have to transcend and you have to involve the role of the higher octave planets, where the contribution or the role of Uranus comes in. Because if Mercury represents your knowledge, if Mercury represents your any sort of discriminatory intelligence, so Uranus represents all sort of cleverance, intuition, telepathy. So all these are the qualities which Uranus brings in our subconsciousness. And I have already mentioned this thing, that if you will find a strong influence of Uranus on your moon, definitely your subconsciousness can act in a very revolutionary, very innovative, very out of the box way. Now friends, specifically in the case of these outer planets, I would say that more than their zodiac sign placement, in which house they are placed in, that will become more important, because Uranus stays in one zodiac sign for close to 7 years of time. So it is like a generational planet. So its house placement is something which you have to give more weightage. And definitely friends, I have already explained the basic attributes of Uranus, that Uranus in a way wants you to grow out of the structure, like in whichever sphere of life you are working. And let's say for example, if you will find strong say or presence of Uranus in that specific area of your life, definitely your mindset or that specific area of your life is going to be very innovative, very out of the box, searching for the deeper meaning or trying to outgrow your existing circumstances or situation. So this is how you can correlate the functioning of Uranus. Trust me friends, even in my chart, if I were to say, in my chart Uranus is placed in the 8th house, and definitely change and transformation is something which I have always welcomed in my life, and this is something which Uranus represents. All sort of like scientific pursuit, being well guided by your intuitive faculties is something which we generally associate or correlate with the functioning of the Uranus in, whether you talk about the Western astrology, tropical astrology, or our like Vedic astrology. Also friends, just because over here as well we are talking about the correlation of Vedic astrology with these outer planets as well. So like all these three outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto can also be correlated with our Hindu gods, as Uranus is closely correlated with the Prajapati, as Neptune is related with Varuna, and Pluto is correlated with the Yamraj, the god of death and justice. So all the qualities of administration, management, being a very genius, innovative thinker are the qualities which Uranus brings in our life. So okay friends, this was just a basic introduction. Now we will try to understand if Uranus is going to be placed in different houses of your chart, what kind of signification or qualities it will indicate. So now friends, if you will find Uranus to be placed in your first house, so this is a very strong placement which can give you a very strong individuality, strong personality, strong sense of likes or dislikes, strong opinions. See, this can be seen as a very good sign, very good placement for becoming a very good leader. So this is a placement which is not a very conducive for becoming a very good submissive follower. But definitely friends, this placement can make someone very original thinker, very innovative. Like you could be a person who has this utopian mindset, like you have this scientific mindset that with the right set of usage of technology, you can actually change the face of the world. And over and above that friends, see, when we talk about being unpredictable, being very whimsical with your nature, like suddenly you are interested in something and with the same pace you lost your interest in the same pursuit. So this is how the energies of Uranus will manifest if you will find it to be placed in the first house. Trust me friends, this placement can actually work as a blessing for you. It all comes down to the way other planetary alignments in the chart are correlating or responding to this placement. So let's say for example, with this kind of placement you will find that Mercury is also conjunct with Uranus, or for example like Saturn is aspecting your this first house placed Uranus. So then in those kind of circumstances we can say this thing, that all of your these innovative qualities, all of your these altruistic and out of the box thinking can actually help you progress in the life. But if you will find with this kind of placement, your ascendant lord is kind of afflicted and Uranus is closely conjunct with Moon being aspected by Mars, then in those kind of circumstances it can give very whimsical, very unpredictable, little bit kind of rash nature. So this is how friends you can see this placement of Uranus in your first house. Moving ahead friends, now let's say for example if you will find Uranus to be placed in your second house. So now friends, this placement has got a very extreme attributes attached to it. Like this will not be an exaggeration to say that this placement can act as a double-edged sword. So now when we talk about the benefic side of this placement, so definitely it can give you a very insightful, very creative, very innovative mindset or speech. Like whenever you open your mouth in any public forum, people get this impression that this person is very tech driven, very tech savvy, very futuristic, very visionary. Also friends, like remaining very creative and very innovative in the matters of your financial management, this placement can actually act as a blessing for you. Now, in all those cases where you have your own business or you are working in the domains of new age sciences or technology, so all those people can get benefited with this placement. Now friends, one unique aspect of this placement is that natives approach or attitude towards the material position is going to be directly dependent on that his freedom is something which native does not want to compromise. It hardly matters that how much money in a new business person is making, as long as it is not coming in the way of person's own lifestyle choices or his own freedom. Now friends, the wonderful aspect of this placement is that, like many times it has been seen that if you will find that Uranus is placed in the second house, and over and above that, second house lord is afflicted or fifth house lord is afflicted, and Mars is in any way like influencing native's moon, then native tend to remain very impulsive, and native could also have a very gambling, very speculative nature, which can give rise to sudden windfall or unforeseen gains and losses in the matters of the finances. But again friends, in a nutshell, if I were to summarize, and keeping into consideration today's day and age where a lot many like new age tech startup and all people are making very much good money, they are remaining very much successful in getting all sort of funding and support. So I would say that this placement can actually act as a blessing for all those people in whose case their offering, their business is very much aligned with the new age technology and the sciences. Now friends, when we talk about from the perspective of Uranus's placement in the third house, which can actually act as a blessing for all the scientists and researchers, like these days we keep on coming across all those travelers, people who are traveling to different countries and they are exploring their culture, they are engaged in research. So for all those kind of line of work, this placement of Uranus in your third house can actually act as a blessing. Like definitely friends, like the aspect of communication, aspect of travel, and your like your initiatives, like your mental aptitude is definitely going to get colored up with the qualities of Uranus. Like with this kind of placement, if you will find any say coming or any contribution coming in from Mercury, can actually give you success in all these kind of line of work. Now friends, the only vulnerability with this placement is that it can actually upset your relationship with your siblings. Like if your nature is going to be very unpredictable, very kind of unsettled kind of nature, like unpredictable, very forceful kind of nature, so over there this placement can give rise to tension in the early childhood environment or specifically your relationship with your siblings. But when we talk about, like, you could be very eccentric, you could be a comedian, like your personality is going to be something where the moment you are going to come in influence of any new setting, like even at your work front, like hanging out with your friends, so your personality, your jokes, your body language can actually cheer up anyone's dull, boring day. So this is how friends you can see, if I were to summarize, for any sort of travels, being very researchful, being very out of the box thinker, this placement of Uranus in your third house can actually be seen as a blessing in disguise. Now friends, Uranus's placement in the fourth house can actually make you a nomad true from your heart, like all those people who have very unsettled domestic life, like you always want to travel, or because of the nature of your work you are always getting transferred from one place to another place. So this is how the energies will manifest with a strong dignity of Uranus in your fourth house. Now all these qualities are going to get mitigated only if you will find Uranus to be placed in the fourth house, but in a fixed sign like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio or Aquarius. But in the case of a movable sign or a dual sign, then in those kind of circumstances, having a nomadic or transferable lifestyle can be indicated with this placement of Uranus. Also friends, like when we talk about from the material aspect, because many times we overlook that all those things which gives us security, stability, strong foundation, all sort of conveniences, material comforts is something which we generally see from the fourth house. So from the material aspect, this placement can actually be seen as very good. Like in these days where even in our inner home decor, people are like now very much driven towards having their all the electronic equipments within the home as well, very much attuned and aligned with technology. So with this kind of placement, the moment you're going to enter someone's home, you will find that yes, this person's home and decor is very much tech savvy, very much tech enabled. But friends, when we talk about from the perspective of the nourishment, so the definition of the emotional nourishment could be very eccentric or unpredictable in the case of the native, which can actually surprise you. Also friends, when we talk about the maternal relationship as well, so regarding the living relationship with the mother or the experiences of the nourishment in the growing up years could be a little bit sensitive, volatile, unpredictable, questionable with this kind of placement of Uranus in the 4th house. Now friends, Uranus's placement in the 5th house can be seen as very good sign in today's day and age, where all of us are like, we want to be doing our own business, we want to have our own ventures. So with this kind of placement, it can give someone a very creative, very inventive, very innovative, very resourceful kind of mindset. Like one thing is for sure, that native is going to have a very unconventional mindset. Native is going to be very visionary. Native is going to be not a team player, rather a lone wolf with this kind of placement of Uranus in the 5th house. Definitely friends, creativity, new age sciences, technology is going to be a turn on for the native. With this kind of placement, when we talk about from the love and romance perspective, so definitely this placement can definitely surprise you, startle you with the kind of people native gets involved in his young age. Like definitely friends, this gets more applicable in the Western countries, where you have this kind of supporting lifestyle and you have a lot of freedom in the form of taking any sort of decision in the matters of your love life. So definitely friends, with this kind of placement, I am actually looking forward to someone who's going to be very independent, very creative, could be a little bit unpredictable as well, good at heart, a lover of technology, travel, freedom. So self-restraint is something which becomes all-time important with this kind of placement of Uranus in your 5th house. Rather, I would say that a strong dignity placement of Saturn or the malefic planets like Saturn and Mars in good dignified houses is very much required, because otherwise natives like this urge for being unconventional, being original, or being a taboo breaking kind of mindset can give rise to some sort of rejections, regrets, or failures at the latter half of the life. And many times friends, like in the case of your parenting as well, like if with this kind of placement you will find that Jupiter is afflicted in your natal chart, so children also might become a reason of concern, worry, because of given too much freedom to your children at the time of their early childhood years, and later on children might opt very destructive tendencies, destructive behavior. So this is how with this kind of placement of Uranus in your 5th house, you have to actually monitor in which way all other planetary alignments in your chart are responding to this placement. So if I were to summarize, definitely from the perspective of your relationship with the children, you have to give attention towards the dignity, overall dignity of Jupiter in your life, in your chart, in the form of where your this unconventionality is going to take you in the life, how your love life is going to blossom. For that you have to give attention to Venus specifically from the love romantic life perspective, and from the discipline perspective you have to see the dignity and placement of Saturn and Mars in your chart. Now friends, when we talk about Uranus's placement in the 6th house, this is a kind of a sensitive placement, because 6th house demands a lot of routine, lot of discipline in our daily work life, and this is a kind of placement which can actually drain you down if you have to be in a very sedentary lifestyle, where you have to be at a desk job, you have to stay at one place for a long hours of time. So this placement will not respond very good with the discipline and the routine life of the sixth house. But definitely if you have the freedom of being very creative, being very innovative, working in the fields of scientific pursuit or technology, being engaged in research or exploration, so in those kind of scenarios, this placement of Uranus in your sixth house can actually prove to be very beneficial for you. Also friends, like when we talk about from the health perspective as well, like these are among those people who are always experimenting with their medication, always experimenting with their diet, with their lifestyle choices. And friends, like when we talk about from the employer perspective, so like if you are on a top management, you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, so you have to develop that degree and sense of empathy for your juniors, for your subordinates, because if you are going to be very harsh, very hard, or you're going to be demanding and expecting a lot from your juniors, then it can actually create a strife in your daily work relationship with people in your work life. But friends, overall, if I were to summarize, it all comes down to that if you have that degree and sense of freedom in all of your schedule, and how other alignments in your chart are responding to this placement of Uranus in your sixth house. Now friends, coming to Uranus's placement in the 7th house. So now friends, I want to make this thing very clear over here that when we talk about the matters of the houses, so definitely planets infuses their qualities in the signification of a specific house. So the way you are in relationship, that is your first house energy. But when we talk about planetary presence in the 7th house, it tells more about the innate nature of your partner or the kind of people you will attract in your life. So Uranus's placement in the 7th house can actually give you very unusual sort of relationship. Now friends, when I say unusual, it is equally applicable to all parts of the world. Whatsoever is considered as unusual in your community, in your society, so this can give rise to those sort of relationship. Also friends, this can also drive you towards a relationship where your partner is going to be very independent. Like you might be in a relationship where your partner is going to be good at heart, but your partner will definitely demands and respect and acknowledges proper space given to him or her in relationship. So friends, like I can also foresee little bit of the sudden unpredictable development in the matters of relationship. Now definitely for that we have to include other planetary presence in the 7th house, in which dignity, 7th house lord is placed, and over and above that, what is the role which Jupiter is playing in your life, in your chart. Is Jupiter aspecting your 7th house lord? Is Jupiter aspecting your 7th house? That is going to mitigate the unpredictability or sudden stormy energy which can otherwise generate in the matters of the 7th house. Definitely friends, in the matters of relationship, in the matters of the business partnership, a lot of discipline is going to be required if you want to find solace and peace in the signification of the 7th house. Now friends, if you will find Uranus to be placed in the 8th house, so now friends, to begin with, like because 8th house in a way represents the energies of unpredictability, transformation, sudden changes, windfall gain. So in a way, all the Uranus qualities find resonance, or you can see a overlap coming in the qualities of the 8th house. So now friends, definitely the benefic side of this placement is that it can actually give you very strong psychic intuitive feelings. Like definitely in the matters of the partnership, any sort of joint resources, you have to remain very cautious. Like if you are going to be very impatient, very quick to commit to any sort of partnership, so over there you might have to regret later on. So you have to contemplate before becoming a part of any joint resources, joint partnership, sort of nature of work. Also friends, like definitely with this kind of placement, I have actually seen a lot many windfall, lottery gains, a lot many people who have suddenly remained lucky in gaining in India we call it dowry, or in the foreign lands we call about inheritance or lottery gain, which I have already mentioned. Over and above that friends, like when we talk about your emotions and your feelings, so Uranus can actually give you kind of a addiction with your ideas. Like whatsoever belief or ideology you have, it can actually make you very much addicted towards it, and it many times make you deprived of the emotions of people around you. But when we talk about friends, for any sort of sadhana, spirituality, like even in these days where people are inclined towards sadhana, but they want the comfort and ease of technology with it. So this is how you will see that the person is going to pursue any sort of sadhana, any sort of matters of a joint partnership. And when we talk about specifically regarding the unspoken emotions or primal instincts, so over there native can actually have very elevated sense of consciousness for anything to do with the astral experiences, clairvoyance, intuition. This is a very blessed placement. But when we talk about the rashness in your behavior, specifically if in your lifestyle too much of the handling of the weapons, sharp edged tools, or driving, and if you are a kind of person who has got a very casual, very hedonistic lifestyle, like driving under the influence of alcohol, over indulgences in any sort of drugs or intoxicants, so over there you have to balance it out. So friends, if I were to summarize, for any sort of gains and sudden windfall of gain in the matters of inheritance, lottery, and all those areas, this placement can work in your favor. The only concern is that while committing to any partnership, you have to be disciplined and you have to give a proper thought to it rather than very impulsively committing to anything. And for all those people who are engaged in any sort of research, scientific pursuit, this placement can actually act as a blessing for all those people. Now friends, when we talk about from Uranus's placement in the 9th house, with this kind of placement, native can actually get success in anything to do with the foreign affairs or publishing or writing, teaching. Like many times people ask me that what is the probable yoga for someone to marry a foreign spouse. So trust me, Uranus's placement in the 9th house can be a very good indication of that. With this kind of placement, you will not find someone to be very orthodox in his or her religious views. Person is going to have a very broader view towards the finding the truth, higher thinking, philosophy, knowledge, wisdom. This can also give rise to lot many unusual travels as well. But overall friends, because when we talk about your like higher mind or wisdom perspective, so 9th house plays a very pivotal role over there, because before that, like 3rd house, 5th house has more to do with the scientific pursuit. Like even 8th house has got a lot to do with the spiritual pursuit. But when we talk about the true philosophy or the wisdom, so for that we see the 9th house and Uranus, which represents very higher octave of Mercury, like very original kind of thinking, processing of the information. So Uranus's placement in the 9th house can be seen as a very good sign for benefiting or gaining out of the positive influence of teachers, foreign influence, cosmopolitan, global mindset, and progressing even in the path of religion, spirituality, or having your own views towards religion, towards the soul elevation in the life. Uranus in the 10th house can be seen as a very good sign only if you are going to have your own control over your line of work, like having your own business, any profession which can give you strong degree and sense of individuality, where you have this freedom to give any shape to your chosen career. Like definitely friends, we have seen all sort of unusual occupations and profession, and many times very unpredictable development in people's life, like someone who was pursuing a corporate career. Now suddenly this person became a motivational speaker. He started following spirituality as a part of his profession as well. And many times friends, this is not a kind of placement which will promise or which will give a mindset where person is going to be inclined towards the hierarchies at the corporate or professional environment, or very much given towards the power games or politics at work. All these are the qualities which is definitely going to turn off the person with this placement of Uranus in the 10th house. Native is definitely going to be having a very humanitarian mindset. Person wants to be of great help to other people, and creative freedom at work will become very important for the native. And I have already mentioned this thing, that for having a very utopian approach towards the world, having a very broader sense of vision for your profession, for your career, and enjoying a freedom at your profession, and a very good sign for having your own business for someone who's going to have Uranus being well placed in the 10th house. Now friends, when we talk about Uranus's placement in the 11th house, now 11th house is a very important house because many times people only restrict the signification of the 11th house only from your wish fulfillment perspective or from your supplementary income perspective. But trust me, when we actually talk from the perspective of that what you will ultimately become in the life, so for that we have to give attention towards the 11th house, and our social association, our networking also plays a very pivotal role over there. So now friends, if I were to say for someone who is going to be very much inclined towards any sort of humanitarian, philanthropic work, being a crusader, being a revolutionary, so if you are working in all those fields which require that kind of revolutionary mindset or dealing with these kind of revolutionary people, so this placement can actually work in your favor. Now friends, because with this kind of placement we have to see how other planetary alignments in the chart are responding with each other. Like let's say for example, if you will find moon to be afflicted, then this can give rise to too much changeability, unpredictability towards your goals. You're not being able to focus on one specific concrete goal in the life. And now friends, when we talk about from the benefic side, so definitely whatsoever group you will become a part of, so initially definitely you will turn off people with the erraticness in your nature, with the unpredictable behavior of yours. But trust me, once people will get to know a better side of your personality, your true intentions, then you will earn some very true authentic friends in the life. But trust me, with this kind of placement, this is not a very conducive placement for gaining friends in a very short span of time or impressing people in a very short span of time. You are gonna take time, but once a quality time is spent and you will associate yourself with people with a common goal, common objective towards life, some sort of true philanthropic humanitarian intentions for the world at large, this placement of Uranus in the 11th house can actually bring miracles in someone's life. Now friends, Uranus's placement in the 12th house needs to be taken with a pinch of salt because this can actually act as a double-edged sword. Because friends, if you have been following Uranus's placement in all of the houses, so you must have understood that Uranus is a very freedom-loving, very unconventional, very unpredictable scientific sort of energy. And 12th house has got a very restraining, very confined, isolation sort of energy. So only if you will direct your energies in a profession, whether you are working far away in confined places, but you have this creative freedom, you are engaged in any sort of creative pursuit or scientific pursuit, then this placement can actually manifest some very marvelous, very wonderful results. But let's say for example friends, if you have not got that sort of platform to release your pent up energies, or you do not have any vent to release all of the energies, then this placement can actually give rise to innate curiosity and inclination towards intoxicants or escapist tendency. So this placement needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. And in a nutshell friends, if I were to say, any sort of foreign influence, any sort of flavors of technology, innovation, research can actually bring some very wonderful results with this placement of Uranus in your 12th house. So this is something friends which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs on this discussion on Uranus. For further more updates and notification on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. धन्यवाद।